Today we're going to go visit the Revolution Party website. Not the Revolutionary Communist Party Canada. They're two different elements. The Revolution Party Canada is very new. Communist Party Canada goes back a long ways. The term communist in the Western world has a negative connotation attached to it, mostly due to the fact that people don't really understand what true communism is. Marx's version of true communism isn't what people have called communism ever since. So we're going to click on Revolutionary Party Canada. There it is. And you go to the front page of their website. Platform, Eat the Rich. Now that immediately is going to turn people off. There's a lot of people that are going to say, Eat the Rich, yuck. Become a member, contact us more. That's pretty standard stuff. They open up with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms here, and then time for change. Greedy billionaire oligarchs are taking over Canada and the world, and a human rights revolution is the only solution. Well, it may not be the only solution, but it certainly sounds like one of the best. The Liberal and Conservatives are equally to blame for the inflation and housing crisis, and the NDP are not the same defenders of labor and unions that they once were. I would have to agree with those statements. That seems true to me. One of the things you have to realize as a Canadian looking at your country is from the time Canada was formed in 1867 until today, only two parties have ever formed the government, the Liberals and the Conservatives. That's it. There's never been anybody else. There are third parties that have come and gone over the years, and we did have recently, under Jack Layton, the NDP did form the official opposition for a short period of time. But that's a rarity. That's not the norm. The norm is Conservatives in charge, Liberals opposition, or Liberals in charge, Conservatives opposition. So if you don't like the way things are, if you don't like how things have been going, if you think things should be going better, you have only two parties to blame. You need to blame the Liberals and the Conservatives. Not the Liberals or the Conservatives, the Liberals and the Conservatives. Both those parties have run the country since the country's inception. That means both those parties are the ones who are responsible for where we are today. If only one of them were responsible, then you would have seen massive improvement when the other one was in power, but you never ever saw that. You only saw small incremental changes here and there. There was a brief period under Lester B. Pearson where it looked like we might finally be breaking free of that, but it ended after Pearson's 5-year term. So the first thing we're going to look at under Revolution Party is the Eat the Rich page. And the reason we're going to look at that is because it's going to turn a lot of people off. When the people shall have nothing more to eat, they will eat the rich. It doesn't say who said that, but I think it makes sense. Make them pay up. Unlike many of their global counterparts, Canadian billionaires tend to stay quiet about the undeserved, unsustainable wealth they are hoarding. Yeah, I'll go with that. The 20th wealthiest Canadians in 2026 could fund a universal basic income program all by themselves. Since they have not already done so out of the goodness of their hearts, we wanted to encourage the very greediest Canadians to share the wealth by shedding some light on them. The name and shame Canadian billionaires. So this thing about the 20th wealthy Canadians could by themselves fund a universal basic income program. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, that's not true. That's not true. That they're just saying that. There's no data to back that up." Trust me, there is data to back that up. The top 20 Canadians, if they were taxed properly, could fund a universal basic income program all by themselves. The disparity between billionaires and the rest of us is insane, and they do not pay anything even remotely close to something that might at some point be called their fair share of taxes. Okay. And the conservative and liberal parties, they're never gonna make them pay their fair share. It's just not going to happen. If it hasn't happened by now, in the 100 and some odd years that we've been at this, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So you need to break away from the liberal and conservative parties and go with a party that's going to do something like this. It's going to say, we need to have a universal basic income program, and the wealthiest Canadians are going to fund it. The other thing that people are going to say is, oh, universal basic income program won't work. Well, yeah, it will. The current philosophy in most Western governments is if you want to move the economy, you give $100 million to somebody who already is super wealthy, and somehow magically that's gonna cause them to invest it in such a way that the economy will start moving. Well, that's proven to be a falsehood. Um, they've been doing that for decades, and it's obviously not been working because wages have stagnated and inflation has continued. So, you know, you're an idiot if you believe that this system's going to suddenly start working. The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. So, if it's not worked in the last 50 years, it's not going to work anytime soon. The basic income is a completely different way of doing it because what you're doing then is you are lifting millions of people out of poverty. And when you lift millions of people out of poverty, you're going to get your economy moving because those people will buy things. Those people have been living, keeping their old refrigerator together with duct tape and hope. As soon as they're lifted out of poverty, they're going to buy that new fridge. They're going to fix their fence. They're going to go out to dinner at a local restaurant and celebrate that they can go out to dinner at a local restaurant. You're going to see local economies benefit immensely because these people who didn't have any funds will now be able to actually start contributing to moving the economy. They're going to buy goods and services. They're going to go occasionally to see a play. They're going to start to travel, bringing in tourism. And all of this will have a positive impact on the economy. But if you give $100 million to a billionaire, even if they do invest most of it in your country, you're not going to really see the effects of it. It's not going to dramatically move the needle for the economic outcome. Now, a classically trained economist is going to argue me on that, but a classically trained economist is just that, somebody who has gone to a university and been told this is the way things are, instead of somebody who has sat back, looked at the world, and understand how the world really works. You need people making money to buy things to make your economy move. The more people that are making good money, the more your economy moves. It's all based on mass and numbers. The more concentration of wealth you have at a high level, the the fewer of the people at the bottom who have money, the more your economy slows down because the wealth is becoming more and more concentrated at the top. The guy at the top only goes out to dinner once a day. You need to have the 10 million at the bottom going out to dinner at least once a week if you want to have a healthy economy. And that's not happening today. No one at the bottom is going out ever to do anything. They're barely getting by. In fact, I would go so far as to say that probably if you took a survey, half of all Canadians are barely getting by. So, this universal basic income would go a long way to fixing that kind of thing. So, the name and shame Canadian billionaires, Elon Musk is the top one. That's no surprise. There's Zhao. Weston's number 4. I actually thought he would have been higher, but okay. Thompson. Gee, that's a wealthy family, isn't it? Campbell, Richardson, yeah. Some of these names I don't know, and we're still in the top 20. McCain, I know. Rogers, I know. Gillian, I know. Camp, I know. Saputo 30. I didn't realize they had that much money in that family. Smith, Sobey, hey, there you go. Another another one who owns grocery stores. Isn't that weird how the people who own the grocery stores are the wealthiest Canadians? Makes you kind of wonder about how much you're paying for groceries, doesn't it? Like, where is that really coming from? Continue down the list. Again, a lot of these people I don't know. Stronach, I know Stronach, yeah. Bombardier. Oh, Tannenbaum 56. Didn't expect that. Reichman 57. Expected that one to be higher too. And again, names I don't know. But obviously they're 79, still going. Oh, 100. We're down to we have 100 billionaires and we're still going. There's still more. 113, 120, 130. There's 130 people worth over $1 billion in Canada. We encourage all Canadians to review the above 2026 list of greedy Canadian billionaires and visit the Hall of Shame for more details. No more hiding from paying their fair share from criminal accountability. I think that like they're obviously being very hard on these people, but I don't see why we shouldn't be hard on these people. This to me is great stuff. I think if the Liberal Party of Canada were to have something like this on their website, a lot of people will go, wow, yeah. But they don't, and they never will, because the Liberal Party of Canada believes, like the Conservative Party of Canada does, that if you're going to give out government money, give it out to the people who already have too much. Platform, we'll click on that. The short version. Oh, I like that. I like short versions. Your time is precious. We get that. So here's our platform. All about us. The Revolutionary Party is a federal socialist party that believes human needs are human rights. I'm all good with that. Top 3 priorities. Food and shelter, tax the rich, electoral reform. I like all those. Revolution Party Canada will make food, shelter, charter rights, tax billionaires out of existence, and introduce proportional representation. Ooh, those are scary, scary words to conservatives and liberals. Proportional representation. You can't have that. It's a shame that Canada still has the first past the post system, where governments can form a majority with less than 40% of the popular vote. Yeah, it's happened multiple times. Majority governments with less than 40% of the vote. No. That's mathematically wrong. And math is an exact science. No modern government has any excuse for allowing majority rule with minority numbers. If you only get 35% of the vote, there is no way you should ever form a majority government. But it has happened in this country, and it has happened in the provinces in this country. Food is a right. We will nationalize food banks and provide enough funding for them to entirely eliminate hunger in Canada. Yeah, the fact that there's hunger in Canada is just, to me, insane. The fact there's homelessness in Canada is, to me, absolutely insane. That a country this wealthy has people living in the streets is unforgivable, in my opinion. Water's a right. We will cancel contracts with Nestle and ban all private water extraction in the future. We will also guarantee safe drinking water to every Canadian, no matter how remote the community. That's a good one. We've seen news stories. Well, maybe you haven't, but I at least have seen news stories about remote communities in many provinces that do not have supplies of adequate water. I live next door to someone who has a job working at a mine that is in a rather remote area of northern Ontario, and that mine does not have an adequate water supply. The person had health problems because they showered with the water which isn't treated properly, and it gave them an infection. So this is the kind of thing that Canada should certainly be wealthy enough to see gets eradicated. We will respect Canadians' human rights in accordance with international law and expand federally funded social housing until every Canadian has a home. That to me is something that should have happened a long time ago. But again, liberals and conservatives, the ones who always form the government, won't do this. They won't do it. If you vote for them again next time, they won't do it. They'll take your tax dollars and give it to people like Elon Musk. Environmental protection is a right. Our planet is dying. We will immediately and permanently ban new oil and gas projects. Ooh, that's going to lose them a lot of voters, especially out west. And subsidies to the fossilized fuel industry, expand environmental regulation, and fund initiatives to exceed our commitments under the Paris Accord. That's going to be tough. It's one thing to say it, it's another to do it. The the commitments we made under the Paris Accord were actually very aggressive for their time, and things have only gotten worse since then. So this level of commitment is going to be one they're going to have to fight awfully hard to get. Um, Tax the rich and give it to the 99.9%. The poorest 40 million Canadians can't bear any more burden. I agree with that. So the richest 40,000 Canadians have to pay up. And you understand these numbers, eh? The bottom 40 million Canadians will not see a tax increase under the Revolution Party. The bottom 40 million. Even if you have $50 million, if you're valued at $50 million between what you make and what you own, you are much closer to someone living in poverty economically than you are to Galen Weston. Think about that for a minute. If you're worth $50 million, you're closer to someone in poverty than you are to a billionaire. We will create a scaling annual wealth tax on billionaires and implement punishing new surtaxes on businesses where the CEO or executive makes more than 10 times the lowest paid worker. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Back in 1950, CEOs didn't make anywhere near the level of income that they make today. And yet, in 1950, we were wildly successful as a country. We were going gangbusters after the end of the Second World War. We will eliminate the remaining capital gains exemption, making exceptions for modest family inheritance. So, for example, under 5 million. Okay, I can live with that. If you say that you're going to cap me at being able to take a $5 million inheritance, and that at above 5 million you're going to take most of the rest, I'm good with that. And if somebody isn't good with that, you probably don't want them living in your community. We'll also implement a national universal basic income. I talked about that a little earlier, to protect workers from U.S. tariffs, the impacts of advancements in AI and robotics, and workforce reductions in oil and gas. Okay, so you may lose your job because of some of their policies, but they'll bring in a universal basic income program so that even if you do lose your job, you're not going to be destitute. You're going to be able to continue to have a home, a shelter, have clothes, and have food in your fridge. Finally, end first past the post. Oh, I love that. That is so near and dear to my heart, getting rid of the ancient, antiquated, outdated, very poor first past the post system. We will collaborate with Canadians and all federal parties to develop representative electoral reform and end first past the post, implementing a proportional representation system. The vast majority of modern democracies have abandoned first past the post and moved to some kind of proportional system. Even Australia and New Zealand have abandoned first past the post and have something a little better. Um, Canada continues to cling to it tenaciously, primarily because, again, the Liberals and the Conservatives have formed every government. So they don't want proportional representation, because if there was proportional representation, somebody else might be able to form the government. And the Liberals and the Conservatives don't want that. They don't want you to be able to actually tell them what to do. They want to tell you what to do. You have to listen to them, not them listening to you. Their version of democracy is we tell you what you're supposed to do. My version of democracy is I tell them what they're supposed to do. That's how democracy is supposed to work. Your elected representatives aren't supposed to do what they want, they're supposed to do what you want. And then they get into details. I won't get into details. I encourage you to come visit their website and you can go through the details. Oh, they got a policy library. Oh, yeah, this is really in depth here. We got multiple pages. Yeah, so you can go through all of this stuff. Abolish lifetime abolish lifetime appointments. Abolish the monarchy. That's going to turn a lot of people off too. Will legislate complete abolition of the monarchy in Canada by 2050, including all political, economic, social ties and influences. Abolition of the Senate. Oh, well, that one, I'm not going to say that I'm against abolishing the Senate. Um, I think that perhaps a discussion needs to be made for making the Senate an elected assembly so that you have two houses, the House of Commons and the Senate, and they're both elected. And legislation has to pass both houses to go into law. It's a By having it that way, you have an additional layer, an additional check and balance on potential bad policy. Like the senators can hold up a bill that the Commons has passed while saying, hello, rank and file Canadians on the street, you should take another look at this. So I'm not 100% on board with abolishing the Senate. I'm sure that if I sat down and discussed it with other people, they could convince me of that. But right now, I'm one of the people who would say I'd rather see the Senate made an elected chamber, nobody appointed to it. All refugees welcome. Anti-monopoly measures. Canada needs anti-monopoly measures so badly. One of the reasons why we pay ridiculously high fees for telecommunications is because it's a monopoly. One of the reasons why our grocery prices continue to come up no matter what happens, monopolies. Monopolies can set prices however they want. Monopolies can be as inefficient as they want. They don't ever need to fix any of their internal problems because they've got no reason to. Oh, we're woefully inefficient. We're throwing away 100 million a year on the way we do this, but it doesn't matter because we can just raise the price whenever we want. Only if you're under the pressure of competition do you have an incentive to look at your company and go, we're not doing this right. We need to fix this because it's costing us money. It's making us bleed profit. If you don't have that incentive, you got no reason to fix anything. Oh, things are going badly. We're not doing well. Oh, we're bleeding money because we're not managing this properly. No, just up the price. That's what a monopoly can do. And that's what monopolies do. You think Galen Weston gives a shit about how his stores are operating? No, he doesn't. Because he doesn't have to. It'll be different if there's anti-monopoly measures. Anti-Terrorism Act. The RPC will repeal racial profiling measures. Ooh, I like that. Um, there's going to be a lot of pushback from the conservative wing on that. The conservatives are really going to not like that one at all. We'll click on page 2 just for Bank surtax. Yep. Yeah. 10% surtax on Canadian bank profits. Banks in Canada are insanely profitable. They all make multiple billions of dollars every year. Uh, I believe it was TD that got charged with laundering money and still posted multi-billion dollar profits. At the same time, ordinary Canadians have to pay fees on their personal checking accounts because they can't afford to leave the minimum requirement to not pay the fees in the checking account anymore. Like, that's insane. That's so insane. We need this so badly. This, the other thing, and I don't, might even be on their list, is to eliminate uh, personal fees on personal checking accounts. That's got to go. Banks have really got to be told that they can't do that anymore. If they want to make that money up by putting fees on other services that rich people use, okay. But the personal checking accounts, everybody needs one, and to say that a person has to keep two, three, four, $5,000, whatever the number is ridiculous, because a person who's living paycheck to paycheck, they have great difficulty setting aside $5,000. So that type of thing, I'm all for that. Ban on foreign investment in residential property. Yep. The RPC recognizes that rapid advancements in robotics and artificial intelligence have allowed for dramatic gains in operational efficiency, resulting in the shrinking of manual and cognitive labor. Yep. To ensure that this is not exploited to the detriment of society and further expansion of wealth and inequity, we will legislate an automation tax. Oh, yeah, okay. You get rid of people and replace it with AI, you got to pay a tax. I'm good with that. Transparency, artificial intelligence ethics. There's all kinds of great stuff here. I encourage you to come to the website and look through it all by yourself. I don't want to to spend a lot of time and bore a lot of people with this stuff. Um, Become a member. Fight today for a better tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've been doing that most of my life. Oh, all kinds of contact information stuff there. Contact us more. What's under more? More. Constitution, Manifesto of Human Needs, bylaws. Yeah, that's all pretty standard stuff for a party to have those different things. Organizing resources, electoral districts. Yeah, that's all pretty standard too. Oh yeah, gotta have the legal stuff. Connect with us. Yeah, that's good stuff. So for the most part, they seem to really have things in order there that I'm all for. This sounds like a viable option to the current situation that people find themselves in Canada, wherein every year you get the same old status quo, status quo. This party is looking to totally upset the status quo and and actually look after the most vulnerable people in society. They want the typical Canadian, the bottom 40 million of us, and there's just over 40 million in the country, by the way. This party wants to help you, the ordinary Canadian. It wants to penalize the super wealthy and only the super wealthy. Even if you're worth $100 million, they don't want to penalize you. This is the party people should be supporting in this country.